Oh, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to Deep in the Mine. Last week we spoke about a big problem that Minecraft is facing. This week let's talk about one that they do a really good job at avoiding that I think all of us fall into in our regular life, which is the appeal to novelty. This is a fallacy, this is a flaw that we all have in our lives everywhere, but we don't have this inside of Minecraft. At least we don't have it as often. It is a problem that you can have in any game development process where you think that everything that the game already has is awful and you should just add brand new things. This last week we saw Minecraft actively upgrade a bunch of old structures. We saw them actively take some old things which were unused and give them brand new extra life. Think about the ancient city. It got a brand new reason to go there, which is way better. If you think about the Woodland Mansion, now it's not just the place where you find totems, which are better found elsewhere, and the place where you find some good loot, which is also better found elsewhere. Now there is something unique to this structure, and this is a really exciting thing. 1.20 is really starting to bring in new uses for old features. This is something which is a really smart way to kind of design a game as a whole to bring extra life into it, but it's also a great way to show how Minecraft generally avoids the appeal to novelty fallacy. So to talk about that very briefly, this is the idea that anything which is new, anything which is modern, is inherently better than something that isn't. This is something we all fall into some amount. I mean, you would just assume without even checking that the 2023 model iPhone or whatever car you have just has to be better than the 2022 one. And funnily enough, this is usually true, but there's this fun thing that cars, for example, all got worse in 2021 because of a chip shortage, so you genuinely want the 2020 or the 2023 model, not the ones in between, as a fun example. And in Minecraft, a lot of people might assume that 1.20 is the best version, and you'd be correct because it's the most recent one, or 1.19, but a lot of people would say that no, 1.8 was the last good version. That's when they got the combat correct, because they don't like the way this new, even though I have this inherent bias that says I think the new combat is great, a lot of players say, no, we like the way it is just fine. And this is a really interesting point where the player base and the developers come into direct conflict. And another one of those such cases is when talking about new updates. Every single person, when they say, what should Minecraft have in this brand new update, they're thinking yeah, we can add brand new exciting things. Why does Minecraft not have guns and nuclear explosions and, nuclear reactors which you can plan and get electricity from? And, people have these big ideas for what if there were 65 new mobs, etc, etc, etc. Everyone always has such grand plans when they talk about Minecraft, but they forget that just because something's new, and when you've just come up with an idea, it's the freshest and the newest it will ever be, just because it's fresh and it's new, it's not necessarily better. And let's talk about appeal to novelty and how it applies to Minecraft here, and why it is something they do a really good job of avoiding. Because like I mentioned, the latest snapshot is really the best example of this we've seen in a really long time. Minecraft out of nowhere, there was no prior announcement, just said, hey, this is a new thing we're doing, armor can be trimmed now, and by doing that, they didn't make it just like a brand new system. They used the smithing table, which was very, very underused overall, and then they also took every existing structure, and then in the case of the Elder Guardian, or the Ocean Monument, there are no chests in that structure, so they gave the Elder Guardian a drop too, and now they've made it so there are 11 brand new reasons to go out into your world, plus a 12th if you include the Netherite upgrade. They made the game very, very different. However, a lot of people then have this feeling of this is amazing, trim it, and it sounds like in a lot of ways it's wait, so instead of adding something brand new, they just took an existing block and made Netherite harder to get. The smithing table is now harder to use. It requires 3 components rather than just 2, and a lot of people say oh man, that's the worst. If something had to come out fresh from nowhere, people would be excited, but because it's not as new, because it actually fits better into the existing game, there's a lot more kind of pushback towards it. This is also the way that chisel bookshelves were at first too. People saw oh, all this update has is a new version of signs and a new version of bookcases and what looks like a new version of the horse but is very big. Seeing features which fit in well with existing ones removes some of that novelty, and the same thing is true for why you're not excited about brand new phone launches. Unless it does something crazy brand new, imagine if it folds. Whoa, look at that, a phone that folds, that's nuts. That's basically the only new feature we've had in phones for the last, like, few years, and even that, like, I mean, it's not actually so exciting to people. People are like, you know, do I want a phone that folds? Do I need a hinge in my life? Probably not. But, you know, like, as an example, I am someone who says, oh my god, it's a folding phone. I've got to experience that in my life, and like millions of others, I choose to buy one of these. And so, the way this applies, the thing Minecraft is doing very cleverly is using old features to fit them into the game to avoid this just, oh, it must be, if it's new, it must be better, because this is a problem that the game really suffers from, in my opinion, or really the game could suffer from, but it has suffered from in the past whenever you see Minecraft go in a very out there direction, sometimes it doesn't quite get pulled off right, correct, right? I mean, for example, 1.11, even though it was a really exciting update at the time, it didn't actually do very much for people because the Woodland Mansion was a brand new place to explore, but like, how often do you really find it? And everything else about 1.11 had the same problem of like, yes, people like the idea of rare things, but actually rare things that are new aren't very exciting and aren't found very often and don't impact players on a day-to-day basis, whereas just slightly changing something existing. So, you know, the much bigger change in 1.11 is the shulker boxes, which is just, what if there are chests, but you can move the contents of the chest? It was really kind of dull, and at first it was like, how often are you really going to want to use this? But if you've ever seen people make projects or do builds, now it is an essential part of the late game toolkit. You bring those boxes around with you, filled with ingredients, and it's just the way to move resources. Minecraft got better by adding a feature which was really dull and didn't seem exciting, and then Minecraft got basically no amount better by adding this feature which was amazing, the biggest structure Minecraft had ever seen, but then kind of disappointed in the end. I mean, again, like the reason to go to the Woodland Mansion was specifically to get an item, which they then made kind of pointless, and so it sat underused for a really long time. Exciting to some, and exciting for console players, because they were found everywhere, but for most people it's like, yeah, that's a thing that exists, but I just don't care about it enough, which is why this update, adding all the new things to the structures, is actually quite revolutionary. However, I want to kind of, I want to mention the danger that they kind of have as I want to mention the danger that they have in every update where people are saying nonstop, like, here are the brand new incredible things that we want, and they have to think to themselves, like, what actually is it that will improve gameplay? This is something I think about all the time. Like, I try my best to, you know, think like a game designer if I can, for the sake of, like, I want to understand what's actually happening to make this input turn into that output. How is it that you hear a wild update and then you eventually get whatever you get? You know, why did they decide to make a wood type that was really bland at first and then later change it? And the answer is, like, yeah, they figured, like, well, we'll add a wood type that's realistic, and then they abandoned realism to make the you know, like, these sorts of things are the things that I try my best to understand, maybe not always doing a perfect job. And so the reason I say that is because I think it's important to mention that there is a real, you know, there is a real novelty factor which could sell any individual Minecraft update. If they wanted to make 1.20 the best looking update ever, all they'd have to do is go absolutely cog wild with the features and say, yeah, it's all coming and it's happening and it's new and you've never seen it before, and people would go wild. I think the problem with armor trimming is right now we've all seen it after months of nothing, and so to all of our eyes it's just like, oh, wow, that was unexpected. Like, when you see something for the first time, you genuinely don't know what to think. At least, you know, like, as someone who's, like, seen a lot of brand new Minecraft features, you know, like, it's my job to make news videos, so I see something, and it's my job to try and explain it as quickly as possible, like, at least if I want to make timely YouTube videos. And something I've noticed in that time is, like, okay, what do I think about what I'm seeing? I mean, it's cool, right? Like, again, your first instinct for anything new is like, whoa, it's new, it's better. Like, you know, in the recent beta, Minecraft added crouching. I don't really know how much that's going to change the game for better or worse, but I do like the idea that they're finally adding that crouch thing that I wanted. It's new, and therefore it's good. Is a trap that I kind of am falling into. I think everyone falls into with a lot of things. You know, as a society, have you noticed how there is always a brand new way to lose weight, right? There is always a brand new exciting diet. I could name the last, like, 5 that from my lifetime. It's like keto was popular, and then there was there was Atkins or whatever. Like basically, like there's diet that's like, oh, just don't eat fat. You can eat whatever you want. One's like, as long as you eat 300 grams of veggies a day, you can eat whatever you want. There's all these like dumb diets that are like, do this and you can do anything. Like the idea of like fad diets are always changing because wow, this new one must have really cracked the formula. If it's new, it must be good. It's clearly not correct. Also, if you think politically, like every single country, every single democratic country on Earth, besides like Japan and Singapore, every single democratic country has a shift between the the wings of its government that it goes through. I'm not going to get deep into politics here, but there is always a pendulum that shifts. Sometimes the pendulum spends 15 or 20 years in one direction before it shifts again, but there's always a shift that happens. And although some of this could be equated to a society seeing like, oh yeah, it goes this way, I don't like it so much, I vote for that way, and then, oh, I don't like that so much, and there's like a reactionary element to society. You know what you don't like much better, like you can see something that you don't like governmentally speaking, and it's easy for someone who's not in power to say that, "Lou, trust me, I'd be good." There's a part of that, but there's also an element of we just think like, whoa, these new guys though, they really get it. These old guys, they've been doing this job for 13 years, and do I have a jet ski yet? But these other guys, they say I'm going to get a jet ski. And if they don't get in charge, the guys after the guys I'm voting out to get them, they'll say I'll get a jet ski if I go back to them. There's a kind of continual shift in anything that way. And in the same, a lot of games, I won't like call any out in particular, but Terraria is an example. No, it's an example of one that, like, I bet is amazing if you're a player of that game, but it runs into a problem that, like, I am so confused when I see new updates. I'm like, I haven't explored the full base game from when I first got into it in 2012. There's still a lot of content that I just never saw. And so seeing all this new stuff now that was incredible when it was added in 2015 and 2019, and I think they added a new update last year. They just added a new update this year, right? They keep saying it's going to be the last update, then they keep making more. I don't fully understand the development process, okay? But all of that stuff is new and exciting for existing players, but to me, I'm like, what is happening here? And in the same way, like, if someone gets out of Minecraft for 5 years, we're all excited about these brand new camels and these signs, right? But if you are just someone looking at the game trying to work out like, okay, what has changed? Why are there these giant caves now? And I can't dig for diamonds at the right layer. And I made this whole video about like things that have changed in the last 5 years because I had a friend who got back into the game after years and just said like, what is all of this? Why do all the things I know not work anymore? It makes you kind of mad when you're like, yeah, the things the kind of like opposite bias. It's funny because we all have this, again, the bias is called the appeal to novelty, but we also all have a bias of like loss aversion. We don't like to lose things we already have. And so you combine those two biases together, and the really dangerous path that any game, anything that is changing over a long period can get to is like, wow, we need to make things new and exciting, but also not interfere with your old stuff. And if you think about that Minecraft-wise, that could be like, oh yeah, what if there's a brand new type of stone, but it's only found below your world, and also it doesn't work, it's like stone at all, it's really crazy. You can make different types of tools, and oh wow, isn't that nuts? That'd have been way more exciting. Imagine if Deep Slate wasn't just useful for making dark cobblestone builds and making, all these fun new blocks and stuff. What if Deep Slate was used to make special cobblestone tools? Now you got the Deep Slate tools, and now you've got this, like an incredible whole set of gear. You can make a dark looking, you could add all of that stuff if you really wanted to, but by adding that layer of complexity to the game, which is new and exciting, you kind of mess with people's existing stuff. People want to know that even after, like, Minecraft has this problem of like people know how to specifically people know how to specifically get through the early game of Minecraft. So many people are just playing the same, like, call it 5 hours of Minecraft again and again and again and again and again. Even YouTube videos, like the most popular ones, have you noticed every single server, SMPs were a really popular trend. I'm always being asked to join one, but I don't like that they reset the server every 6 months. And it's like, well, we've done all the things. We want to start again from scratch. There is a point in Minecraft where people just go, yeah, I'm bored, I'll just do it all again. And that is an interesting thing most other games don't have, where you can go on forever, and it's totally valid too, at least I think so, as someone who has a 12-year survival world, but also a lot of people just choose not to. a lot of people just say, yeah, I could go on forever, but I'll just do the same part of the game again. And so people want that same part of the game that they played in 2012 or 2015 to work now in the present. Again, there's this fear of losing it. And so Minecraft has to tread the line of like not upsetting those people while also trying to keep the vibe that things are new. The newer something is, the more exciting it is. You know, if I tried to tell you like, oh yeah, there's this really cool new I don't know, like it's a levitating train and it goes real fast. You're like, heck yeah, I want to get aboard that. Am I making train analogies for a second podcast in a row? I think I am. But you know, if you're just like, oh yeah, you want to take the train up to Littlesworth, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. It's like, yeah, it's from the 1950s. It's fine. It will get us there, kind of slowly. It's not exciting, right? There's a vibe difference between new, exciting, and the best thing ever, and like, yeah, that exists technically. I think this is the reason that every tech product can resell itself every year. I bought a brand new pair of headphones recently. They were the 2023 model of my headphones that I last bought in 2019. Fun fact, I bought my old headphones because I was robbed on the way to the airport. So I bought headphones at the airport just as like I need a way to listen to stuff. But they're the 2023 model of the 20. But so much had changed in that time. It's fundamentally the same headphones that I got broken, if you're curious. Also, if you want to know another story, I left my headphones in the back of an Uber the first time I was going to wear them. And so I've been texting the Uber driver for like 2 weeks, and he's like, don't worry, gonna come deliver. Like, he's being really nice. I've offered him cash and he keeps turning it down. He's like, I'm coming round to do it soon. And so I feel like if you were just gonna try and take the headphones, you just wouldn't say all of that, and you'd be like, I didn't spawn any headphones back there. But also, I'm having a fun time getting that back. So, you know, this is unrelated to the podcast today. I just wanted to let you know about my headphone story. You want to know about my other stories that's happened? You know, let's take a brief intermission to say this podcast is sponsored by ibxtoycat.store. Did you know the best place that you can get anti-Valentine's Day cards? That's right, anti-Valentine's Day cards is ibxtoycat.store. It's coming up real soon. Let your loved ones know that they are perfectly okay. Because honestly, let's be real, right? There is a societal expectation of new and fresh love. You can't just say to your partner, I am with you because I have been with you for the last 5 years and things are just about okay still. You can't say that, but you should be able to, which is why the truest expression of love is when you go to ibxtoycat.store and you get your partner a card that says, hey babe, I think you're in at least the top 60% of women as rated by appearance. That is a high quality card for a high quality woman in your life. And if you don't have a high quality woman in your life yet, start. Don't start with like, you're the best in the world. Where can you go from there? Start with, I think you're in the top 60% and work your way up. And that is something you can do at ibxtoycat.store. My other story, by the way, is I went to Banff this last week. I really like snowy places, but I felt very cold the entire week. And you might even notice my voice in the last week of videos. I've never had this like sickness thing where you're like, it's like straight from one bad thing into another. And that's a really interesting, like, you know, a part of me wants to be like, isn't this cool because it's new? And yeah, there is a point where the novelty like fails. Like that novelty isn't fun if you're like, oh yeah, I've got this new way to feel terrible every day. But there is a general understanding that when something new happens, it must be good. I genuinely think that if I fell into a coma now, hopefully I'd wake up not sick, by the way, but if I ever fell into a coma now, I would wake up and 1.23 would be out. I would believe that the sum of 1.21 to 1.23 must be good. There's no way the sum of those free updates plus 1.20, whatever comes in the next few months, there's no way the sum of those updates could not equal something good. Is that a bias I should have? Should everyone actually be looking at things and saying, well, this is brand new and it's free, because Minecraft updates are free forever, by the way. This is brand new and it's free and there's like, you know, like there's stuff in here and you can always just ignore it. Or should you say like, actually, no, I don't like that they added the bamboo jungle because now my jungle is diluted. You know, like, I don't like the bamboo jungle because it's just not as good as it could be. I think Minecraft should be exactly how it was in 2010. Because the funny thing is, if you are that sort of person, I mean, in fact, the number of 1.8 and beta players that still exist tell you there are people who genuinely believe Minecraft was best in insert time here. Those players can play the old version if they're on Java. If they're on Bedrock, they're screwed forever, that is. And that actually is an interesting, like, proof off the fact that Minecraft updates are a source for good. I don't think that like we just think they're good because they're coming out and they must be good in that way. Like again, I think it's a fallacy we fall into for particular new features, but I think every Minecraft update genuinely is improving over the old one because it's rare they remove something. Although, actually, to talk about the other thing from this week, that is something they have done this week. They have made something harder. Again, like, in games, it's really, really hard to nerf something because nerfing people will make people unhappy. So instead, it's easy to just buff everything else. So if you want to make gold better, for example, instead of making everything else worse, or if you want to make gold worse, because it's OP, it's definitely not, you can make everything else better, and then gold is the same amount of good. You can still use your gold pickaxe, it does the same thing, but the relative power level goes down. And in the same way, Minecraft has decided to make, Netherite harder to obtain, and instead of doing that in a way that is like, well, yeah, everything else is just now easier to obtain, they've gone for the idea of like, yeah, we don't think that Netherite has just felt like a easy stepping stone after diamond. Now if you want to get it, you effectively need 7 diamonds plus a bit of exploration. Plus there's a lot of Netherite gear you can have. Upgrading all your stuff to Netherite is now much harder because of the 7 diamond cost. You're gonna have to go strip mining with Fortune for a really long time. And that addition, just that change to things. Also, hello, how are you doing, by the way? Hope you're having a good Thursday as you're watching this. But that's in response to the way this is going. Hope things are going well. But the idea of making a feature much harder is something that is generally against the Minecraft like kind of code of doing things. They say they don't like to interfere with existing worlds, and so all of your existing Netherite stuff is going to stick. If you have Netherite gear, you don't have to worry. If you want to get Netherite gear, now is the time. I've said this before, but I think this is now especially the update where you want to do things before it to prepare for it. Like, this is kind of true of every update. This time, it is seriously true. You want your Netherite gear now. This is your reminder, if you have a long-term world, go get you some Netherite, because it's going to get harder in 1.20. And, I think it's a really weird point to say, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing that it's working that way? Is it good that they've decided to break with the norm and go for a nerf because they've done it while announcing all these other good features? Or is it brand new and therefore the worst? I hate when they change things like that. I don't actually know for sure. I think that I think there is this real question and I don't know the answer. Is Minecraft going on the right track with 1.20, where they are trying not to just make new things for the sake of being new, and instead they're looking at the game fundamentally and they're saying, how do we make diamonds and structures more useful while also making something cool? Armor trimming hits that. They think like, okay, how can we add more customization to worlds without having to add a bunch of new items and new systems? The answer was they went for hanging signs and they went for chiseled bookshelves. All of these ideas are really interesting ones, but they also aren't as fresh and exciting as some people would like to believe. And that's the kind of issue we run into right now. It's like every feature is carefully considered. It sounds like that's what they say, and I can genuinely believe looking at the end result of them, but also at the same time, you see months and months of work go into like the ability to change the color of your armor. And it's like, what happened in those months? What did every single one of these, 150 employees do? And I do think that is that's the interesting thing about going for quality over quantity, right? Is the more, to get quantity is really easy to make. Like, there is a maximum amount of words I can type. There is a if you want to know the maximum amount of video I can make, it's 1 minute per minute I'm awake. That's the maximum amount of like content I could create. But if I want to make, say, a podcast, I have to think about what I'm going to say ahead of time. I have to, a half an hour podcast takes maybe 40 minutes, or maybe a minimum to make, but realistically like an hour, plus the time to like title it. There's more time to make that into quality. And if you're thinking about a video, so my videos here, I'm using my videos as an example. I've been working on making videos that are like a little bit, they're scripted in terms of the flow, so we have like a fun path to follow, and so every little section and connection is scripted with like unscripted in between, and then every single little like frame, every single like sentence basically has its own frame of video capture. That takes someone a lot of time. Obviously, like it takes me a lot of time to make, and you're talking about hours and hours of effort for every 5 minutes of video, and that is about turning a lot of time into a little bit of quality. You can condense more and more effort into less and less space, or you could go the opposite way. Instead of Minecraft saying, let's make all these features nice and quality, they could just go, okay, show up to the office today, make 3 mobs. I don't care what they are, but they should be in the game by the end of the day. Everyone at the office could like if I was tasked with doing that, by the end of today, I could make you 3 mobs. They wouldn't be good, they wouldn't do interesting things, they wouldn't add to the game. And so is that where Minecraft actually is? Do they have 9 ideas for every idea in the game that just haven't made it and they think wouldn't be good to add? And, you know, if you saw these ideas, would you think they were good? Or, you know, just because they're brand new and they're exciting and, oh my god, how could they cut this out? Or would you say, actually, they made the right call? This is the big challenge and the big struggle with where we're thinking at Minecraft 1.20, and I really wish I knew the answer. All I know for now, though, is that there are new things happening, and they're exciting to me because they're new, and as we, you know, like, it's widely known. As an example, it's just widely known that if you want to do anything the best, you do it in the newest way. You know, like, if you want to make YouTube videos, you don't make videos anymore. You make YouTube shorts. This podcast is the exact opposite. This is a YouTube long. What am I doing making YouTube longs in the era of YouTube shorts? Being an idiot is what. But if you would like to support me being an idiot, then you can become a member on this channel. You can subscribe. You can perhaps also ibxclickat.store. And yeah, the show, if you're curious, is going to have some sponsors somewhat soon, and you can support them too. But for now, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I have a sponsor right now. Go get yourself a Valentine's Day card. Someone in your life will appreciate it, and we're running out of time to get it in time for Valentine's Day. So make sure you do your best. And speaking of doing your best, I'll see you in the next week episode when that happens. Goodbye.